pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I've taken attendance. Everyone is here today except Councilmember Goodman, who is absent. I shared the meeting minutes from our March 10th meeting with the board. I'll accept a motion how to proceed with those.
I'll make a motion we accept the March 10th minutes of the meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, the minutes are accepted. Next is public expression. This is an opportunity for individuals to comment on matters involving Newport, other than those pertinent to any public hearings today. The time reserved for public expression is not a question and answer period. If you need to address a specific situation and do not feel comfortable speaking at the meeting, you may contact me directly. Speakers will be limited to 2 minutes. Is there anyone who would like to speak during public expression? Go ahead, sir.
The only thing I have to say is about the land. You know, everybody knows. I was awarded the bed in March of 2023 for $2,466 a year for a 2-year lease. In minutes, John suggested that be extended to a 5-year. Right? Yes. With that being said, I put a substantial amount of money. I took soil samples, took them down to the soil, and I put lime on it, fertilizer on it. Substantial, thousands of dollars. And I stopped talking to Daniel, and he said that they don't know if they're going to lease it. I would not have put that money into that property. It says here, been extended to 5 years. So I invested the money that I lost.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone else like to talk in public expression? Okay, if not, I will close public expression and we'll move to the next part of our monthly reports. I go first. So I met with town residents during my office hours. I invite people to come talk to me during the office hours or to schedule an appointment online if they'd like to do that. The town submitted a grant for the records management grant by New York State for us to do an inventory of all of our town records. We'll hear back from New York State in June of this year if we were awarded that grant. And if we're awarded, we'll have a consultant come in to help the town clerk with those things. Since last month, I finished implementing ADP, which is our new payroll and human resources management system for all our town employees. ADP does payments through direct deposit, and they'll also help us with human resources things like making sure all our employees sign off on all the required policies and things like that. So that's fully implemented, which is good. The Comprehensive Plan Committee met earlier this month, and we discussed all of the businesses that are located in the town of Newport. We made a plan to reach out to the different businesses and to get feedback from them on how they think the town has performed in the last 10 years. We also talked about writing the comprehensive plan, which is something we're going to start doing in May. I assigned different parts of the plan to different members of the committee, so it'll be a team effort. And we also sent out postcards with links to a community survey to all 723 households in the town. So far, we've received 100 responses, but we're hoping to receive some more. That is open until May 1st of 2025. If you know anyone who lives in the town of Newport who hasn't filled that out yet, please help us do that. We're looking to get more responses. Then the tax program for online payment of taxes and administrative services. We're still working on implementing that, but Admin Gov, who is helping us with that, told me today that they've finished setting up the WIP site, which is the site that residents will be able to use to pay their taxes online in the future. And the goal, the expectation is to have everything completed for that by the end of the year. So for next tax season, we can use that. Next on the agenda under my monthly reports is a discussion on the land lease. So I wanted to talk to the board about that. In 2023, the board did a 2-year land lease on the land that we own. The Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee has been having conversations about using that land to expand the trail network that's located next to it that's currently privately owned. New York State recently came out with a grant that towns can apply for to do things like that. One of the caveats of the grant program is that you can't have the land being actively leased to anyone, to be town owned and vacant. So as the comprehensive plan moves forward, it will likely be that the comprehensive plan wants in the next 10 years us to think about this. There is grant funding available, so the town will have to make a decision on how we want to navigate that.
Can you tell me exactly where this piece of property is that he, that he leases?
So
All of the farmland is back here.
Not all of
Well, the bulk of it, most of it is.
it.
How many acres would you say?
This says it's 18,
18.
it's a big port, it might be 14, but that's relevant. And I also like to add, not if I could, I pay $137 an acre for that. You know what farmland goes for? 50 to 60.
Well, I think since in 23, we decided we were gonna extend the lease from 2 years to 5 years. And you put an excess amount of money in that property, expecting that.
It needed multiple applications of line. PH was, that land is not been taken care of.
No,
For
I
years.
realize that, but I think out of fairness to somebody that thought he had it for 5 years, and we even at a meeting, and I remember that.
I remember, and
We
I
extended-
looked it up and found it.
Right, we extended the lease from 2 years to 5 years just for that reason.
Right.
You know,
So people
somebody puts money in it and then 2
They can
years later.
recoup some money.
Right, I think that presently, until the 5-year period expires, I think this gentleman should be able to use that land and not worry about it going someplace else. It's just being fair. I mean, we even at a meeting, and I remember at the meeting, we did extend it for 5 years.
The original lease was for 2 years. It was supposed to be up this year. And another thing, that needs to be planted by May 10th
Well, as far as I'm concerned,
for proper yield.
right, as far as
and
I'm
make money.
concerned, it's your land for the next 3 years. And I don't care.
That's up to the board.
Now, I don't care what the planning board wants to do or what the comprehensive planning committee chooses or not. You put money in it expecting to have it for an additional 3 years.
I thought it was gonna go back up for another 5.
Well, I'm not saying 5, but.
The original was 2,
Right.
and then I assumed that it was gonna go up for 5.
Well, it was my understanding, and when we made the motion, it was to go to 5.
But I don't know if it ever did.
Well, I don't have the minutes of the meeting.
I think the last lease was for 2 years, and then I think the board talked about maybe doing 5
Extending
years
it
next
to
time.
5.
Well, out of fairness, I mean, I just don't think it's fair to, the guy anticipates having it for 5 years and then puts
Well, I
money in.
anticipated on at least bidding on, going out to bid again, you know? And now here we are less than a month away from planting.
Well, yeah, and by the time enough bids come in, we wouldn't even, it's gonna be after May 1st.
And I honestly, I have Pogonowski's and I have Allen Dave and Cleans on the other end. I have both ends of the field. So if the middle sits there with nothing, then so be it.
Well, I don't wanna see that, and out of fairness to you, I think we need to at least extend the lease for 3 years.
That's fine with me.
That'll at least recover some of your expenses.
Are you ready to plant it?
Am I ready? I want to plant it the first week of May, by the time.
Yeah, I know you get it planted early, and it's the type of land that you can get on.
Yeah. And the sooner you, the
If
sooner
it-
it dries down, the more money I make.
It's behind this ocean.
Yeah, it's back over here.
If in our comprehensive plan,
I-
it's something we want to use,
I
will we
plowed,
be using it before 3 years? I mean, if we extended the 3 years to him, would that be something we could do without interfering if the comprehensive plan wanted to do something with that property?
The Municipal Parks and Recreation Grant, which is the grant that the state recently came out with, for context, it's award up to $1 million. The state will pay for 90% of the project, and the town has to pay for 10%. There's 2 cycles of $10 million each. The first cycle is due May 2nd, which obviously the town wouldn't be able to meet. The second round isn't announced yet, but I talked to Heather from Mohawk Valley Economic Development District, and she said that usually the second cycle would be in like the September of this year or next year. And when you apply for the grant, you have to have completed the project within 2 years. So it's a unique window of time where the town would be able to apply for money to do something like that. So I don't know if we did a 3-year lease, I don't know that we'd still be able to have access to that opportunity.
If we did, because at this point, we're thinking of not leasing it at all.
There's different options the board could do.
Okay,
Well, right now for this year, he can plant it, yes?
But his lease is up, so the process that has to happen is that if the board wanted to lease the land again, you can't just tell the current person that they can go ahead. You have to put it out for bid, and then we receive bids and review them, and then the lowest bidder, or the highest
But
bidder.
did he get his extension?
No,
What?
Or his lease is up with the extension that he got, or no?
There's no, it was a 2-year lease. The board at the last meeting talked about,
suggestion of an
right,
extension.
didn't give
He's
it.
setting it to 5, right? So he didn't get the extra 3 years, or?
no, it was a 2-year lease. The board talked about the next time the lease was up, potentially, instead of doing a 2-year lease, doing a 5-year one. But the last one was 2, so it ended, I think, in March. of this
There's
year.
not even time for release now, or for.
No,
How
it's
long a
not.
period of time do we have to bid it out?
We could do it at our next meeting, or the board could have a special meeting to do it.
Well, he wants to get it planted within the next couple, 3 weeks, so you're gonna have to have a special board meeting. Advertise it, if it's gotta go to bid, then advertise it. Hopefully you'll get the bid again. We don't have too many people that.
I don't mind bidding, I have no issue bidding on it.
Bedford?
I have no issue bidding on it.
No, I
That's
realize
fair.
that. I realize that, but what are you gonna do about the length of the lease? Can you recoup
I
some
don't
of
know.
your losses in 2 years?
Yeah, probably, because it doesn't need to be lined again. Lime is
Yeah.
a slow release thing, so they'll be there for.
So a 2-year lease would be acceptable.
I mean, at least I could get back
Like I
like
said,
what
the comprehensive plan, it's too late to put a request in for a grant. You're gonna have to probably go to September, if in fact that's when they do it.
Yeah, the comprehensive plan is not gonna get anything done this year.
You know.
So, and we don't have time to get bids now, because it's gotta be planted.
Well, then the only thing is, what you wanna do is you're gonna have to leave it to a 2-year lease. And, let him rebid, or whoever bids on it, which we don't get a lot of bids.
it was only me and Tracy Stanko last time, cool enough.
Yeah, there was, because there's not that many people live close by that are
Right.
farming anymore. The Amish don't want it.
They don't wanna pay $137 an acre, I'll tell you that.
No, you're right. I mean, that's about the
break
only thing
even
we
money.
can do, really. He'll recoup most of his investment. And then at the end of 2 years, 2 years goes by like that. And
Yeah,
she
it
already
does.
knows. I mean, next thing you know, it'll be Christmas again. Snow season.
It's like
The issue
205
again
days
is,
or something until Christmas, I think.
You know, the clock keeps moving, and what are we gonna do? You know, we really kinda have to make a decision, at least for
I
this
think
year.
he should
I'm playing
rebid
both
it,
sides
give
of
it
it,
to him for
so.
2-year lease.
No, I realize that,
You
but
know.
I don't want, I mean, I realize you put quite a bit of money in it, expecting to have it for,
I did.
for more
I
than just
honestly did.
this year. Otherwise you wouldn't have put.
I would have
anything-
never done that.
No, nobody would,
We got Timmy Allen over here dumping tractor trailer loads of lime, and that stuff costs money.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, not only that, I mean, not only your labor's involved too. I think we need to go back, put it on bid, have a special meeting so that we can award the winner of the bid, so that at least he gives an opportunity to get his crops planted in a timely manner.
Yeah, it's a little late this year to get bids on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the middle of April, and you
Yeah.
wanna get it planted early May,
I'd like, by the time, I'd like to plan.
that's what I mean, so I mean, we really need to.
Decide right now.
There's a resolution later in the meeting, we're just talking.
Okay, all right.
But I guess to summarize and we'll move on, I guess the point of contention is the town, I think it's a rare opportunity to have access to that kind of grant funding. I think you have to balance that with the needs of the land lease or whether. So I don't know if 2 years, it depends on the grant window, if we'd still be able to do it. I think 1 year would work, but the state hasn't released the second round yet.
Well, right now, we couldn't
Well,
decide.
the other,
to give
the other problem you got when you go that way, if you say, well, we're only gonna do it for 1 year, and then you don't get the state grant, and the next thing you know, the property, you'll have to hire somebody to cut the buckbrush down before you can even use it for farmland. So you gotta, you're shooting craps when you wonder about the state grant. We have not been successful with state grants.
This
I'll
is
be
not
honest
the
with
first time, I mean, I worked for Lynn's Tom for years and years and years. 30, and Lynn had that for over 20. And this went on before, oh, we're not gonna do it, we're not gonna do it. I should have listened to Lynn a long time ago. He told me just keep mailing the check, and I didn't do it.
Well, it's handy for you,
Yeah,
that's the thing about it.
that land is nice because you can work on there anytime.
Well, yeah, it's good land,
It is, very nice.
it's good land.
We can't just accept it for a year. Just for this
We're
year.
gonna decide on it later,
Yeah,
but
alright.
that's something you guys can consider.
Go over what you gotta go over.
Okay, the animal control officer didn't submit a report, neither did the assessor. We did receive a report from the codes department. So during the month of March, he said there were not any outliers from normal course of business. There's permits being issued and managed for repairs from the winter storms cleanup activities related to the winter storms and rebuilding operations from the same. Matt is here with us, so if anyone has any questions for him, you can ask him.
How you feeling?
Oh, great.
Good, keep it up.
The only other point that I did have, I think, was on the second page. To be CEO code and zoning enforcer or officer, you have to pass a 6-week course. So 2 weeks have been completed and passed, so that's, I think it's another 3 months worth. But all of the New York State Building Code and Fire Code is the start of this, that's all done.
Okay, good.
All good.
Everybody's all set with the asbestos abatement that they have to do.
Both sites that had to have asbestos abatement, they had outside contractors come in, all was dealt with, and no issues at all. Yep,
Okay.
went well.
Good.
I've got a couple of questions for you after that, all right?
Okay, next is the highway superintendent who did not receive a report from. We did receive one from the historian. It will be available on the website, but she talked about how they had 2 visitors at their center this month. And they're also working on indexing the Newport picture books. And they have all the Newport related obituaries in their system for the month of March. And the planning board, the town clerk also submitted a report saying the fees that she collected for the month of March, which will be available on the town website after this meeting. We also received a report from the planning board chair who talked about how she's planning a discussion on training on subdivisions at the planning board meeting on Thursday. They have 2 possible applications for keyhole lots and 1 potential application for a home-based business. Colleen also said that she assisted me in distributing the comprehensive plan questionnaire to the Amish. So does anyone have any questions for Colleen? The Zoning Board of Appeals Chair submitted a report saying that there was no activity for this month. So with that, we'll move to the next item on our agenda, which is the public hearing. So the public hearing will be on the Town of Newport right to farm law that we talked about at our last meeting. So Jennifer, I'm going to email you the page if you could bring it. Okay, if you scroll down. One more, please. Okay, thank you. I ask that no talking in the background, please, while the meeting is happening. Thank you. Okay, so I'll briefly explain what the right to farm law is, and then I'll open the public hearing so you all can share your thoughts on it. So in 2011, the comprehensive plan that the town established called for establishing a right to farm in the town to help better prevent conflicts between farmers and non-farmers and to better enforce the New York State right to farm statutes. So this local law does a couple things. The first is that it establishes the right to farm declaration at the local level. So we have it at the state level already because they have statewide legislation that establishes the right to farm for farmers. But the town local law goes a little farther. It talks about how different agricultural practices conducted on farmland in the town shall not be found to be a public or private nuisance if such agricultural practices are reasonable and necessary, conducted in a manner which is not negligent or reckless, conducted in conformity with general accepted and sound agricultural practices, conducted in conformity with all local, state, and federal laws and regulations, conducted in a manner which does not constitute a threat to public health and safety or cause injury to health or safety of any person, conducted in a manner which does not unreasonably obstruct the free passage or use of navigable waters or public roadways. So the state legislation protects agricultural districts. The local law at the town level protects farm operations regardless of district. The local law also provides consideration of impacts on farm operations to town offices and boards. So whenever a town board or the planning board is making a decision on like a special use permit, a site plan approval, or other things like that, this local law makes it that the board is encouraged to take into consideration what this local law says. The town local law also has a section on notification of real estate buyers and prospective neighbors, which is a state level requirement already. What it does is establishes that it's the policy of the state and the town of Newport to conserve, protect, and encourage the development and improvement of agricultural land for the production of food and other products, and also for its natural and ecological value. This notice is to inform prospective residents that the property they are about to acquire lies partially or wholly within an agricultural district and that farming activities occur within that district. Such farming activities may include, but not be limited to, activities that cause noise, dust, and odors. Prospective residents are also informed that the location of property within an agricultural district may impact the ability to access water and/or sewage services for such property under certain circumstances. Prospective purchasers are urged to contact the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets to obtain additional information or clarification regarding their rights and obligations under Article 25AA of the Agriculture and Markets Law. So the state law provides that notice when people buy houses and things like that. What the town law does is extends that requirement to things at the local level, like our building permits and different codes department related items. So whenever someone's applying for a building permit or a special use permit, that notice will be there to remind them about agricultural districts in the town, farmland in the town, and what the rights of farmers are. Education on those issues has been a problem. in the past in the town, sometimes people buy land or try to build things in certain areas and they don't realize the rights that farmers have in those areas. And then the last thing the local law does is resolution of disputes. So it encourages anyone who's having controversy regarding farm operations in the town, any aggrieved parties can submit their controversy to the dispute resolution center. So 3 main things. And with that, I'll open the public hearing. I ask that people who'd like to speak raise their hand, and then you can say what you have to say. You have 2 minutes to do so. Go ahead.
Yeah, I noticed that the agricultural practices excluded sawmills. So I wondered what impact that would have on the Amish who are currently operating sawmills that mill out beams, lumber, do construction. I mentioned this because we have a farm on Honey Hill that was, the main barn was built in 1865, so it was the year after the Civil War. Though the guys came home and built a big barn on the hill. In the community barn raising. So keeping that barn in repair has been really hard. We have had to occasionally hire the Amish to saw beams that are the correct size for the barn. You couldn't even buy anything like that at Lowe's or wherever. Also, a couple of the farms sustained some serious damage. The Diaz farm on Steuben Road had part of the traditional barn caved in. So we're going to have to be doing some construction there. So I was concerned that sawmills are excluded from this because I really would hate to see the Amish not be able to mill beams for us. Also, I would like to have them construct some run-in sheds so that we do rotational grazing. So that for inclement weather, we could hire them to build some, sort of sheds, those like run-in type of things. So I just wouldn't want to see all that precluded because it's not mentioned in this in the proposed local law. The other question I had is concerning worker housing. I think that's part of standard, there's been cases about what constitutes worker housing and, being allowed. Then I also just wanted to throw out, does this include maple? There've been a couple new people trying to make maple here. I wasn't sure if that fit with the definition, but, I've seen some guys there's a little building over there and somebody's been trying to do maple syrup production, and a couple of the Amish were doing maple syrup production. Also wondering, does this include if a farm wants to do solar renewables, especially for their own use? Does this preclude that? The Cindy Kern's farm has 10 large panels that supply all of her power. And then the last question I had is, how does this impact if a farmer wants to do, they have ag tourism, but, there are some ideas that it's really the Biden administration set the price of milk very low. It was one of their last acts and below the cost of production. We're looking at milk prices that are probably going to be very low during the coming years. Some of the farmers have thought about other things like Christmas tree farms, a brewery, ice cream stands, commercial ventures like that where you can set your price. So I was wondering if any of you have any answers or how that could be included in the right to farm if farmers did those kind of, I guess I don't know if you call them accessory uses or what the legal term for that is, but everybody's trying to think of ways to make some money to support the land taxes and all of the open space.
Okay, so I wrote down each of your questions. I'll try to answer them the best I can. So for the sawmills, the definitions in the local law are based on the state law. So you have to follow the guidance that the state sets. You can be more strict than the state, but you can't be less strict than that. For the worker housing, I'm not sure if that's directly included or in the local law. A lot of those things that you mentioned would depend on interpretation, which the Zoning Board of Appeals does. So if 2 different people have different views on what the law means, then they can bring that to the ZBA, and the ZBA will have a hearing and clarify what the law means. And then for solar, the definition in agricultural practices talks about the things that relate to the operation of farm equipment, the proper use of agricultural chemicals and other crop products. So obviously solar farms power those. So I think there could be an argument, but again, I would have to go to the ZBA if it was contested. And then as for impact on ag tourism, The local law is more about people's ability to conduct farming practices. You have to maybe talk to Colleen or Tiffany about exactly where people can sell products on their farm.
Well, I did do some research on, they call it accessory uses under the, farm stands, sawmills, farm repair, equipment repair, and other rural enterprises are often part of the income stream. For local zoning ordinances, the issues concern level of flexibility and required relationship between the farming operation and other enterprises in the area. So that's what I wondered, if we had a little bit of flexibility here in terms of, sawmills. I just don't want to see the Amish cut out of an income stream, because it is really hard to survive around here, let alone, make a decent living. So I would request that, this proposed law be amended to include sawmills, and, wood manufacturing products, and that there be flexibility on a case-by-case basis for, any future enterprises that we might not have foreseen, say, Christmas tree farm, other things that people, some people are interested in growing cannabis. I mean, there's a variety of things that might come up that, so I don't know how to build the flexibility into this.
Okay. Yeah, Colleen, go ahead.
So this follows the ag district laws, correct? Okay, so the ag district laws specifically address what she's talking about. So local sawmills where the lumber, the trees are cut on the property or from property that the farmer rents is already included and allowed, and they do not need a special use permit. That's allowed. We asked them to get a special use permit, but technically that is allowed underneath the ag markets district, the ag district. Ag tourism is also allowed, and they give guidelines for ag tourism and what the difference between ag tourism is and just tourism. Because if you don't have a farm and you're still like maybe just selling some farm products, that's just tourism. But if you have a farm and you're producing something, then that's agricultural tourism. So it depends on what you're doing on the farm, but again, they're all well defined underneath. I think it's 25A or something is the code for ag districts, and they address almost everything that she was talking about. And then as far as our codes go, we have put in there for those sawmills that they would file, come underneath like it depends on the size. So as the smaller they stay, then they're actually allowed. But if they get large, that's when they have to start getting a special use permit. And so if they're just family run on the farm sawmills, we're not going to get them out of shape about it. So those were all taken into consideration with the new laws, and they follow mostly with what the ag district is trying to tell us to do. And New York State is one of the few states that has opted out of all of the codes for requiring stamped lumber, because they do want to promote the use of, because we have so much lumber in New York State, so many forests, they want to promote local lumbering in New York State. So that's New York State's one of the only states that exempts that having to have stamped lumber for building. Our codes officer can go and qualify the wood if need be, if it's unstamped lumber. So I think that would address everything that she's talking about.
Yeah, that's just my concern. I just don't want to see hardworking people have their living taken away from them because someone objects to having a sawmill down the road. I've heard of some people who tell me that they don't like the Amish, so they're going to give them a hard time on things. So, I think what Colleen had to say on the local lumber is good though, so that's good to know.
Okay, would anyone else like to speak in the public hearing? Okay, if not, we can close the public hearing and move on. So does the board like to make a motion to do that?
Make a motion to close the public hearing. I'll second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, thank you all for your comments, very much appreciated. So we'll move into new business now. The first item on new business is resolution 2025-52, which is in the document I sent you, Jennifer. This is the approval of local law number 1 of 2025, the Town of Newport right to farm law. So like I said before, this is something that the 2011 comprehensive plan talked about. What this resolution would do is adopt the local law that we just discussed after the town has found that they provided notice on the public hearing through the town's official newspapers, and after due deliberation on the proposed law, that they find it to be in the best interests of the town to adopt the proposed local law. So it adopts the local law, and then it directs the town clerk to file the local law with the New York State Secretary of State in accordance with the provisions of all applicable laws. So does anyone on the board have any comments? I'll accept a motion on how to move forward.
I make a motion that we approve resolution 2025-52.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, resolution 2025-52 is adopted, and Marie will file that with the Secretary of State. Next is resolution 2025-53. This is the authorization to sign the NBT Insurance Agency renewal proposal. So each year the town has to get insurance, usually do it through NYMER. We did the same thing this year. The rates slightly increased due to costs rising in general. Last year we paid, I believe, $24,000 for the insurance. This year it's $27,000 because of those increases. But also, I asked our insurance provider to add cybersecurity insurance to the town. That's not something we had before. So now we'll have protections if the town gets hacked and someone holds us for ransom. There's insurance for that. The town official accidentally clicks on a virus and infects the computers. There's insurance for that. We meet all the qualifications now. We have government emails, and we have MFA, multi-factor authentication. So we have all the security things, and they added that to us. I believe that coverage costs an additional $800. So all of you have the full proposal in your folders. But if anyone has any questions about it, I can answer. If not, I'll accept.
I'll make a motion, we accept resolution 2025-52.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, resolution 2025-53 is adopted. Next is resolution 2025-54. This is authorization to sign the Pine Grove Cemetery contract. So what this resolution does is formalizes a contract for an allocation that the town did in their budget. So we allocated funding to help the Pine Grove Cemetery with its mowing costs. Through the rationale for that. The board can correct me if I'm wrong. But when a cemetery becomes abandoned, it is the town's responsibility to take care of that. So through the town supporting the cemetery as its own independent org, trying to limit long-term costs. So the full contract below is there if you'd like to read it, but it says that the town agrees to contribute $2,500 to the Pine Grove Cemetery for the purposes of landscaping and lawn mowing services. Pine Grove has to submit invoices outlining services rendered by Real Deal Landscaping, which is a contractor that they've chosen. And the town will pay invoices in a total amount not to exceed $2,500 within 30 days of receipt of that invoice.
Did the cemetery give us any kind of financial report?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-54.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, resolution 2025-54 is adopted. Okay, next is Resolution 2025-55, this is authorization to sign the Jefferson Lewis Hamilton Herkimer Oneida BOCES Drug and Alcohol Testing Services Memorandum of Intermunicipal Agreement. So this is a contract for services for alcohol and drug testing for our highway department drivers. The town has used BOCES for the past few years, but recently the people in charge of that require contracts. So this is the contract.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-55.
Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, resolution 2025-55 is adopted. Next is resolution 2025-56. This is a resolution to authorize to advertise for bids for salt, sand, shed, corrective action repairs. The Lamont engineers submitted the full bidding document. I have Brendan here with us here to answer any questions that you have. But it was 156 pages, so I didn't print out 4 copies of each to save trees.
Save a few trees.
I believe, Brendan, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. So could you explain the bidding document?
Got me, guys?
Go over it.
Sure. So let me just pull it up here. Basically, the project manual is a bidding document, a contract, and technical specifications to go along with the drawings. The first section is the bidding portion. It gives them a bid document to submit to you guys. It's a lump sum bid with an alternate, as we discussed at the last meeting. So the base bid is for just the repairs to the salt shed structure. And then we did an alternate price for you guys to award if it's within your budget to run the power out to the salt shed and then install the lighting. Beyond that, then there is a standard EJCDC contract document in there. I did not include any bid bonds, performance, or payment bonds because I don't think that the contract would be over the $100,000 threshold for that. And that typically just adds cost to a small project like this, so I didn't include those.
Could you go to Canva?
It specifies to the bidders that they have to follow the prevailing wages because it's a municipal project. And then, of course, there's some technical specifications in there for trenching, backfilling, if they're doing the electrical work, a lot of electrical specifications for that portion of it. Not too much regarding the repair work, but that's the general gist of it, unless you want me to go into detail on the drawings a little bit.
Yeah, I have a picture of the drawings on the projector screen so that everyone can see it. If you could just maybe explain it to them a little bit.
So, what our proposed plan to fix that issue is to, one, go in and make the proper repair that was originally kind of proposed by the designers of the salt shed when it got damaged the first time, which was to sister 2x6s on either side, and then on the back side 2x6s or 2x8s, depending on what direction you're in. I think they had called out for framing nails. We're calling out for timber leg screws, but to sister it on 2 sides and then on the back side with pressure treated lumber, and then stiffen up the connections in addition to that. So on all the connections where those diagonal support posts come in, because it looks like they are moving, have moved, or gonna move some more if it was left unattended, we have them putting in some metal gusset plates to help stiffen up those joints so that they don't move any further. So hopefully that should keep that from moving and give the guys many more years out of it for relatively low cost.
Okay, Jennifer, could you go to the next one? And could you talk about the electrical addition and how that works in your reasoning for it?
The reasoning for it, or as far as like doing it as an alternate?
Yeah, just doing it as an alternate and like how it works and with the reason.
So it's bid as an alternate, so you guys are gonna get two prices when you get your bids in. You're gonna get a price for the structural repair work on the salt shed, and then you're gonna get a price for the contractor to dig a trench, put a line in from the existing panel on in the back room of the highway garage there, out to the salt shed, mount a small electrical box light switch, and then a bunch of LED lights in the top of the bay of the salt shed so that the guys can have lights when they're working in the night, which I'm sure is the majority of the time, in the winter time. So you're going to get two numbers when you guys get the bids in, and you guys can decide to either award just the base bid for the repairs if it's over budget, or you can award both numbers.
Yeah, you got a question, yeah.
Yeah, sure. So Brendan, the board will ask you questions now.
The, is there a warranty on a repair?
1 year is pretty standard in our contract.
And the trench going under the road, who owns it? Is that our road and that's an easement?
Belongs to Newport Cemetery.
It belongs to the cemetery.
Yeah, all around there.
So how do we go about going under the road? Do we have to get,
Well, you're either gonna have to bore on it, or you're gonna have to bore on it.
and there's no issues with that?
Yeah,
We have to
Brendan,
get
could you
permission from them?
speak to that?
No, not.
We're going
No?
behind
Okay.
the building, right?
Say again?
We're behind-
Say that again? I didn't hear.
so we're going behind the existing highway garage, out back where the generator is where we would pull power out and then follow the east wall of the highway garage down the back side of the highway garage, and then it would turn and go over across to your parking, not the parking lot, but across the gap between the salt shed and the highway garage to the salt shed.
But you're still gonna have to go across
The road.
the cemetery lot road, that's
Cemetery.
not our road.
So that the access between the salt shed and the highway garage is the cemetery road, is what you're saying?
Yes,
Right.
Gotcha.
so you'd either have to bore under it, or you're gonna have to, if you dig it up, you're gonna have to make it back to the condition that it's currently in. You gotta bond it.
Okay.
Okay, does anyone on the board have any other questions for Brendan?
You guys got a question?
First of all, why are we looking to go under the road instead of overhead? It would be cheaper, I would think, to go overhead than to go through all the digging and boring and whatever else.
Brendan, did you hear that question?
Yeah, I heard it. It's an option we can look at, as far as, I guess, would you want them to go underground on the back of the highway garage and then set two poles? One pole by the highway garage and then one pole by the salt shed to go overhead?
What are the pros and cons of going underground versus going above?
I mean, underground is less likely to get damaged by, anything, weather, a truck hitting it or something like that. Probably if you're going underground, I'd imagine if you're going underground for a portion of it anyway, even as far as like restoring the cemetery road, probably would be cheaper, just because with poles being, poles are going to be of, probably $1,000 for two poles, I would guess, and having to come up it with a riser of conduit. My guess is underground would probably be cheaper, even if you had to pave even if it was a paved road and you had to pave a trench over to come across it. But we could entertain options. We could always put it out to bid underground, and then if you guys get the low bidder on board and he says, oh, it would be way cheaper if we just set 2 poles and did this overhead, then you can always negotiate with that low bidder and change the scope if you guys want to do it that way.
Okay. Did that answer your question, sir? Or no?
Yes and no. My next question was B, on the repair to the building. Has the town looked into seeing if the collapse of the roof trusses had anything to do with the structural integrity of the end of the building that we're talking about? Or is this something that's just gonna be done without looking into it? Have we had a contractor or an engineer look at it to see that the trusses didn't start the problem to begin with?
Brendan, did you
And
hear
we're having to put the
From what I
building
understand, the
repair?
trusses caused the problem. The trusses fell down. The trusses broke off the poles that were on the gable end of the salt shed. And then ATS, the guys that designed the salt shed, gave a recommendation for the contractor to splice those poles that were damaged. And the contractor did half, if that, maybe a third of what they were supposed to do. Instead of using 2x6s, they used 2x4s. Instead of nailing it 6 inches on center, they screwed it maybe 2 foot on center, if that. So they didn't, somebody didn't follow through with checking to make sure they made that repair the way they were. And that's what's caused that failure on the back, is that those spliced joints where those holes were damaged are failing.
Failure myself. I mean, I live locally and I drive by here every day, and there were very few purlins put on those trusses when they were set up and erected. And the purlins are what hold it together. Yes, there was a wind, and the wind should have been able to keep that building standing with the purlins on it. So, who's getting taken for a ride here?
Hey, Brendan, do you have anything else to say regarding that?
I
Yeah,
think if you went and asked any
unfortunately, I think, yeah, you
contractor
guys got
that's done
maybe
building
screwed on that
contracting
deal, but
work,
it's too late to go
I'd
after
say
those
the
guys
same
now.
thing,
I'm sure that
purlins
was
were lacking.
5 years ago.
I'm not sure it was 5 years, but I'm still wondering who signed off on the thing when they accepted it. Why did they sign off and accept the building, is what I don't understand. When it wasn't even done according to the way the engineer wanted it done after it was damaged. Somebody had to sign off.
Who was it that signed off?
I have no idea, I've never seen.
Did we have a
contract.
clerk of the works?
General contractor.
Well, we really didn't have a clerk of the works, then that was one of our
Maybe
problems.
that was the problem then.
Yeah,
Maybe
that
we
was-
should
I
have
think
had a
that was one of-
contractor, maybe we should have had a contractor that knew what building construction was on the site to see that it was done properly.
We had the engineer who was supposedly supposed to do that, which I don't, once the problem developed, the engineer that was with the town at that time wiped his hands of the whole deal. He didn't want to know anything. We had to hire another engineer. But I want to know who originally signed off on that building to accept it.
Right,
They had to be the codes officer at that time. And I'm not sure if the supervisor signed off or not. But I want to know if the codes officer signed off. It wasn't that
I
code.
think we should look into some of these things before we start repairing the building and putting it back in service and spending a lot of money doing it. I think we should look into seeing who was actually negligent in some of these aspects of this building being put up. I wasn't in favor of that building. I don't think wood is the way to go. The state of New York has condemned an awful lot of salt sheds in my travels because they don't hold up. And here we got sold a bill of goods on something that the state of New York won't even use. So where is the negligence here?
There should be paperwork that shows who signed off when this project was done. And I would guess that it was
You
2021.
gotta see who the inspector was.
Yeah, who's the inspector? Who was the clerk of the works?
And I think, I
No,
think
shouldn't
it
have
was
been the
our,
town.
our
I think
code
It should
enforcement
have
that
been an
signed off.
outside source
It is. I
looking
think,
out for the town
Right.
of Newport.
I think they used the town's code officer.
Yes,
They
I think
can't,
so.
they got, so contract, they gotta use their own.
From what my opinions of the town codes officer, right here.
Well,
I've heard so many people say that he is neglecting his duties. He won't return phone calls. He won't come out to see the people that are calling in. So was he the right person to have it, do that job?
Well, it wasn't the codes officer we have now. It was a
No, I'm
different-
not saying it was.
It was a different codes
I'm not,
officer.
it was a different one, yes. I agree with that.
Okay,
But where does the negligence lie?
the
It should
focus,
lie on the town of Newport.
the
to have to
focus
pay
for now is finding a pathway forward to make this safe for the highway employees.
We have,
So
we
those
have
are things that we
balance.
can look into, but we'll do
Yeah.
that at a later time. So Colleen, yes, go ahead.
So if the bids come in and somebody is the lowest bidder on, and you're having it split between electric and the repair of the building, if one company is cheaper for the electric and one company is cheaper for the building, do we get to split the job between two different contractors?
Brendan, did you hear that?
I got you.
Yeah,
Hey,
why not?
Colleen, how are you? I haven't talked to you in a while.
Hi.
I still say it's gotta be cheaper.
Typically, it goes to the base bid. So it's whoever's the lowest on the base bid is usually how it's determined of who's the lowest. So I don't know, it wouldn't be easy to just split it amongst two contracts if one was lower here and one was higher here. Now, you can negotiate with the low bidder, so if you can get the low bidder to figure out how to get his number closer to the other guy's number on the alternate, that is an option you can do after you've bid it.
Right, but it's.
Well, we would use two contractors, I would think, right? One does construction, one does electrical. Electrical
I
is
did it
another
as one
field altogether.
contract, because I figured you're gonna get a GC that's gonna come in there and do the repairs. You're gonna have a GC that's gonna come in there and do the trenching for getting the conduit in underground, and then he's gonna hire an electrician to sub out all the electrical work.
That's right. So if we don't like the electrical part of it, then we just tell them to find someone else to do it. You can still use the same GC.
Correct.
Right.
National Grid puts the poles up and puts the wiring on the top of the poles. And it's on them.
Okay, any other
The only
questions
part
from
that-
the
Yeah,
board?
there's limitations on that, what they.
There is
do.
limitations, yes. But the only part that we would have is connecting it to National Grid, putting the poles up to the building.
They generally don't go more than.
They don't go to the building, no,
Would it be cheaper in the long run to go solar?
No,
no.
No, that would have been.
that's a
Yeah,
whole other ballgame.
That's a whole.
We
nother
looked at the
ballgame.
option while we were out there to maybe run a line overhead to the pole that's out front by the driveway, but that would require you guys to have a whole new service. So
Yeah.
that's a second service on the existing site, so that's a second meter, flat rate $50 a month, every month from National Grid, and we just didn't think that's the best long-term solution for you guys.
Well, we're gonna have to get bids on all these options, isn't that correct?
You're gonna get bids on what's on the drawings as they are.
And coming off the road, the pole on the road, is that also on there?
I did not put that in as an option.
Okay, that
no.
needs to be on there. We need all our options on the table. A building is a disaster from the word go. Never should have been built. That's just my opinion.
Mine too. It should have been concrete, just like you said.
What's that, sir?
I said it should have been concrete, not
Yes,
wood.
definitely.
Not wood.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't disagree with you
Concrete
guys there.
walls.
We've never done we don't do the wood salt sheds ourselves anymore. At least not the bottom piece. usually the retaining walls are all, should be
Would have been
concrete.
better with concrete all around with the canvas top.
Yep,
Would have saved us a lot of money too.
It's a lot of money. I've worked with several different contractors putting these things up. Every one of them's been put up with concrete walls, 8-foot concrete walls or 6-foot with a steel arch, canvas roof over it. They guarantee those roofs. Now, my building over here, everybody knows who I am. My building over here, the canvas roof went 30 years before I had to replace it. I probably could have got another 2 years out of it while getting the cover. 30 years is a long time. How long is this steel roof with the salt and moisture underneath it? How long is that gonna last? It ain't gonna be 30 years before you start seeing problems. Guarantee it. But like I was saying, I've worked on a lot of jobs, putting these concrete sides up, the steel arch roof over them. Those concrete sides are bolted together, they're glued together, no seepage out of it, and the glue and the bolts hold them together, and they're as tight can be. Not gonna move.
and that kind of goes back to our discussion in the last meeting when we decided to go this route for the repair is, you know, we talked about the option of replacing that back wall with concrete now, but why throw all of that money into, like you said, a building that might not last? Then you've got a back wall that's going to outlast the rest of the building. You might as well get what you can out of this building as long as you can, and then, get something more substantial to replace it in the future. But I wasn't involved with the initial one, so I can't help you guys there to figure out what went wrong, but.
Another good point with those buildings, with the canvas tarps over them, they are very light inside. They're as light inside during the day as this room is right now.
Yep.
Even after dark, with limited light around them, you can still see and work in there.
Okay, any other questions from the board before we move on?
We can't go back and correct unless we spend $1 million. So I think we have to concentrate on what's the best way to repair it, get the most years out of it, and then at that point, we would have to get a new saw.
Yes, I agree, we're getting a little off the subject,
Right, so we gotta,
but you're talking electricity too.
Oh, you need light.
And you're gonna spend a lot of money, I can guarantee it, going underground with that.
Okay.
Electricity, I think, was originally part of the,
It was part of the contract. But
I think somebody
you
got
signed off
paid
the
and
contract
work wasn't done.
without the electrical work done.
$50 a foot?
For the electric
It was in the contract.
or the concrete?
Yeah, the electrical work was in the contract, but was never done and they signed off.
Okay, we have
I just
got
have
one
one
last thing.
question. Oh,
and
I'm
we're gonna
sorry.
move on. Go ahead, you can talk.
Question, did you guys, or did the town board have someone, like a special construction law attorney, take a look at the situation to determine if there could be, some, money paid by whoever? Was it a design problem? Was it a construction problem?
That's exactly what I was asking. Have we got an outside contractor, engineer, contractor, whatever you wanna call it, look at this building and determine whether we as taxpayers in the town of Newport are gonna have to foot the bill to fix this, or do we go back onto the contractor for him to fix this?
he said our times.
Well, I think we tried to find a
That's,
contractor.
so
I think that's a
before,
very good point that she just made.
And
I
then there are
follow up with it.
specialized construction law attorneys that I work for the county, and we hired Tony Adams out of, I think it's called the Claire Adams. Really knows all the ins and outs on construction litigation. I didn't know if anybody consulted with him.
yeah, so before we did this bid document, we talked to Brendan and they did a report on the building's condition. So Brendan, is there anything that you wanted to say in regards to that?
Yeah, no, I mean, we basically looked at the construction documents that we were given, and we did our site visit, and our conclusion is that, when those trusses fell down, they broke the back poles. ATS, the designer of the wood salt shed structures, gave a recommendation to repair those broken posts. The contractor did not follow that recommendation, and whoever was the clerk of the works did not enforce that it got done properly. And that's what caused the issue. Now, how much money are you gonna spend in attorneys and all that going after those guys now? I don't know. Probably more than it's worth to just repair the thing and move on, unfortunately.
Any other questions from the board?
I don't know.
Okay, if not, I'll thank
Well,
you.
anyway, I think we got took for a ride when we got that building out here.
Okay,
I
thank you.
really
Brendan, I'm
think
going
we got
to
took on a
thank you
ride
for
for
your
that.
time.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for answering your questions.
They're all
I
gonna
be in
don't
touch,
know the
okay?
exact figure of how much that building costs out here.
Okay, sir,
I'm almost.
we need to have order in our meeting, so we're gonna move forward with the resolution. Unless the board wants to table that and consider other things, but the timeline for
We
fixing
haven't
this
solved anything.
is, it needs to be a safe building for the highway employees. We can
Right.
consider these other things we're talking about as we move forward, but I do think it's important that we make the building safe and operational for now. This resolution, if you approved it, it doesn't commit the town to doing the project. What it does is says the town is advertising for bids on the project and we want to see options for us to consider based on the 156-page document. that Brendan
We
presented.
decide we don't like it, we can reject it.
Yes, you can. The town has a right to reject any and all proposals submitted.
And you don't have to take the lowest bid, but sometimes you gotta be careful with that.
Yes, the town has in its procurement policy that we passed in January, the best value methodology. So if the town thought the lowest one wasn't great, there's ways to,
I would like to say that taking the lowest bid, sometimes you don't get the superior work that you should get. You
so,
aren't getting the top-notch nail, you aren't getting the top-notch bolt, you aren't getting anything if you take the lowest bid lots of times.
yeah, okay, so with that, we're going to consider the resolution. I'll accept the motion from the board on how to move forward with that.
Now, this is just to get the,
Bids.
estimates.
It's to advertise and to get proposals from different contractors. And then at our next meeting, you guys will look at those and you can decide how you'd like to move forward.
Okay, and are we still gonna, go after the original contractor?
That is something that we can discuss if you'd like to do.
Okay,
I'll make the motion for resolution 2025-57 to authorization to advertise for
56,
bids for the highway for the
56.
salt sand shed corrective action repairs.
but it's gotta be a general contractor.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that resolution is adopted and we'll look at the proposals at our next meeting and go from there. Next is resolution 2025-57. This is authorization to advertise for bids for a highway department pickup truck. So I talked with the highway department. They have a 2016 Ram pickup truck that has costed the town quite a bit of money in repairs the last few months. Highway Superintendent Carney requests that the town considers putting out a bid to purchase a new truck and to sell the old one. I think it's important to note that the town, prior to COVID happening, I believe, originally wanted to buy a new pickup truck and then it never happened.
We couldn't get anybody to bid. Nobody wanted to sell.
So I think
Never get it.
it would not be cost effective for the town to continue to have our current one. I think it would cost more in repairs in a few years than it's worth.
It's lived its life.
So I did talk to staff from the highway department. And the bid specifications for this, the make and model is a year 2023 or newer, is a diesel pickup truck because the fuel we get from Snyder Fuel is diesel. We're looking for a Ford F-350, Chevy 3500 HD, or a Dodge 3500 with a 4x4 regular cab, 18-inch steel wheels, all-terrain, then a cargo box of 8 foot with a towing package, and other other things. Then separate price bid on this bid is a plow for the truck because they use it to plow, they need that. And then emergency warning lights that go on the top of it. So talk to the highway superintendent and the staff about this. I think it would make sense for us to entertain.
Which side engine would be in that truck? There's, you get the wrong engine, you might want to leave the truck right there.
Yeah, it's not specified, but we'll look at all the proposals and I'll make sure the highway superintendent feels comfortable with
Yeah,
it.
don't go under horsepower. Keep the horsepower up.
So does the board have any thoughts on this?
I know it's time to replace it. Now, we're talking about getting a used truck. What about the option of a lease?
Yeah, so once we get the proposals, you guys can look at them and say, if you're interested in purchasing, leasing, we can go from there based on that.
So this is just to get the bids.
Yep.
Then I make a motion that we approve resolution 2025-57.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those
Have you
opposed?
thought about going out of state to find this truck?
Yeah, I think they tried. What happened was, it was shortly after COVID, and none of the locals or out of state could get equipment. So nobody ever got back to us.
We're 2 years past that.
Yeah, so
We
we're going,
probably would now, but what happened was the highway superintendent, we changed superintendents, and it kind of got put on the back burner. Well, now, because it's
There's
beginning.
still time to go out of state. and
we're
look.
going to advertise the bid on BidNet, which is a large network of different suppliers. So we'll have diversity and
Sometimes the state has a contract with various
Right.
corporations, you know,
Right.
Chevy, Ford, Dodge,
Right.
and you buy under state bid. We'll just have to see if that's still available.
Right.
'Cause
Okay.
usually that's quite a bit cheaper.
Next is resolution 2025-58. This is authorization to advertise for bids for a highway department street sweeper. So it's just the attachment sweeper that goes on the front of an existing highway truck. We currently have a tow behind one that is not operational. They've tried to get it repaired a few times and either local vendors didn't have the parts or didn't work out. So this would advertise bids for a street sweeper that goes on the front of a vehicle. Another thing to consider would be renting the street sweeper to use during the months when we have to do this. But you do have to take into account how much that would cost per month each year and whether it would be more cost effective to just buy one.
So
So
what about sharing one with Poland and
Russia.
Town of Russia, town of
Russia?
Norway,
Yeah,
I'm
town
not,
of Fairfield.
I'm not sure that any of the other towns have one. They may have
well,
one.
maybe if
They
we,
may have one that's like the one that we got that you can't do anything with because you can't get parts for it. And as soon as you try to fix one thing, as soon as you take it out on the road, another thing happens to it. So it's no
Maybe-
longer.
well, right now, we're talking about a new one. I mean, we could split the cost with a couple of.
Well, all we're doing, yeah, but all we're gonna do is get,
Yeah.
we're gonna advertise for bids.
Maybe
We're
the
not
three
buying.
highway departments together
Yeah,
could get something that was workable and usable. I
right,
mean, you're only using it once or twice a year, maybe,
really,
Okay.
yeah.
So
maybe 3 times
this
the most.
resolution just advertises the
Yeah, for
bid.
bids.
I can talk to other towns about that other thing. We
After
have
the
our
bid.
supervisors meeting next week.
Okay.
So, but we need to get the prices first.
I'm sure they could schedule.
get some
so
prices.
we're not
Okay,
using it.
so that, this
Hey,
resolution
Nate.
authorizes the advertisement for bids for a highway department street sweeper.
So I make a motion that we approve resolution 2025-58.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, resolution 2025-58 is approved. Next is resolution 2025-59. This is a determination on renewal of the town land lease. So this is a continuation of our discussion from earlier. I think the things to consider are the town's opportunity for future grants balanced with the need to lease the property. So I don't know when the second round of that grant will be. I do think it would be in the best interest of the town to be able to apply for that based off of the feedback I've heard from town residents about the need for recreational areas in the town. But of course, it's up to you and how you'd like to move forward. The grant requires, if we were to get that, that you break ground within, I think it's 2 years of winning the award. And the person I spoke to earlier said that usually the second cycle would most likely be in September or next year. I think based on that, I think it would make the most sense to do a 1-year lease again, if you guys wanted to do that, and then move forward based on the grant applications if the town wants to do that, and then go from there. But the decision is up to you guys and how you'd like to do it.
Well, that would give him the, he could form this year then, he could start,
Right, as long as we do it quickly.
right?
You gotta get it right away there.
We would have to go get bids and everything.
The town has to advertise for bids. We would do that tomorrow. I would do that, and then
2 weeks, have a special meeting,
we could have a special meeting, or you could wait till the May. I think
that'll
it
work
should
for you?
go.
No, we'll have a special meeting as we get the bids back.
You gotta get a deed, you gotta get it right away to get that land though. There is no right away. Bob bugging us on the railroad tracks.
Well, Bob gave us the right of way.
Mm.
Those
Not
are
sure.
Writing?
those are conversations
Writing,
for a
ain't no
future
damn good.
I don't know if
meeting.
it's
There's only
in
one
writing.
right away on that whole track.
Okay, you know. So right now, we're just talking about the land lease. Future conversations about grant projects or things like that will take place at another time. But right now, we're just talking about the decision of whether to lease the land again.
So we're doing looking at a 1 year.
That's my suggestion. That you guys can do whatever the majority of the board wants to do.
So
I agree, 1 year, sure. I'd agree with 1 year.
Well, yeah, because that'll give
Good.
this gentleman, assuming that he gets the bid, it'll give him an opportunity to recoup some of his expenses.
Just hopefully the bids will be open by the 14th at the latest.
Well, we'll have a special meeting if they put the bids out. They advertise for the bids tomorrow. How long have you gotta wait? 10 days?
I don't know the exact amount,
Probably
but
longer
we
than
can
that.
have a special meeting before.
Yeah, we'll have a special meeting and approve whoever rents the, whoever leases the
Can I ask what this land use is gonna be used for?
farm.
Marijuana.
Well, he's a farmer, so he plants corn,
So, okay.
and he put money in the property thinking that his lease was gonna be for a longer period
Well, I
of
thought
time.
it was going back up for at least. At least.
So we'll go 1 year, and we've not had good
That's
luck with
fine.
grants of any kind. The only good grant that we ever got was the salt and sand barn, and that turned out to be a disaster. I don't have a lot of faith in grants when it comes to small towns. You know, they go to New Hartford, they go to Whitestown, they go to Clinton or Kirkland up there, they just, we're like, pardon my French ladies, but we're like a bastard rat. Nobody wants anything to do with us. I mean, I'll go 1 year.
Okay, but someone like to make a
And where
motion
is this
to
land
amend
located
the,
exactly?
Right over here by the salt and sand barn.
By the salt shed.
I'll make the
And you
motion.
wanna get it right away to that swamp hole?
That's good land.
I mean, every year there's water setting on it. I mean, what good is it to me?
Behind the track.
Behind the track.
Well, on the other side of the track, that's a different story. You said behind the salt shed.
Well, I just, somewhere behind the salt shed between the West Canada and the
Okay,
state highway, other than that.
that is pretty darn good land in lots of
You got it.
ways.
This upper end of it is pretty good land. For farm.
If you like canoeing,
What's that?
if you like to ride a canoe.
Well, no, he has good
Joseph,
luck
do you
with it.
want to-
I make the motion to receive bids for the town land lease
For 1 year.
for 1 year.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, those opposed, resolution 2025-59 is adopted with an amendment to advertise for a 1 year. Next resolution is 2025-60. This resolution authorizes me to begin planning for the grant process. This isn't that we're going to submit a grant, but this is something that will likely take a year to plan for. I know the town in the past hasn't been very successful with grants, but I think we have an opportunity to try to do it. And Mohawk Valley Economic Development District, which helped Mayor Butler and the village get their grants to demolish the school in the village, are going to help us with this. So I think it is worth pursuing.
Yeah, personally.
I'll make a motion, we accept resolution 2025-60.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Yeah.
Those opposed? Okay, resolution 2025-60 is approved. Next is resolution 2025-61. This is reappointment of a Board of Assessment Review member, Sean Morrison.
We're gonna appoint Sean Morrison as a member.
Yeah.
He's not a member.
He
now.
is a member now, it's
Oh,
reappointment.
you're a reappointment. Okay.
It's his term.
So it's what, a 5-year term?
Yes.
Okay. And then we have all of the members that we need, correct? And we agreed to what they're to be paid, because there was some controversy over that last year.
I've talked to him about what the budget had.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we accept resolution 2025-61, appointing Sean Morrison, reappointing Sean Morrison to serve on the grievance committee.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that resolution is approved. Next is resolution 2025-62. This is authorization to pay our general fund bills for the month of March.
I make a motion that we approve resolution 2025-62,
Is there a second?
Well, what's the dollar amount?
$44,815.01. Vouchers 66 through 91.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, resolution 2025-62 is adopted. Next is resolution 2025-63. This is authorization to pay the highway fund bills.
Highway fund. Yeah, I guess we can pay that.
Make the motion.
All right, I make a motion that we pay the highway fund, resolution 2025-63, in the amount of $5,664.81 on vouchers 39 through 48.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay. That's our our last resolution. Does anyone have any announcements to make?
About questions.
The board doesn't answer questions at its meetings.
Can't take a question now then.
No, would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Oh, well, I got some, what's this thing that can't wait? I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay, is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
All those in favor? Okay, we'll adjourn at 8:23 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Did you want to announce that you were trying to do a cleanup?
Oh, yeah, we're going to try to do a community cleanup event in the month of March. I'm organizing that with our
Anybody
What did you just say?
practice?
community cleanup event, like, you know, the stuff on all the sides of the roads.
And when do you plan on doing that?
Sometime